Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show, the best kept secret in NBA media. We're trying to lose that title. So if you wouldn't mind, make sure you subscribe to the NBA Front Office Show here on YouTube or on the podcast feed over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. Keith, it is. I know technically we've got the summer league championship and stuff. It's starting to feel more like summer though than I think ever before. I watched summer league games yesterday, and boy, that arena looked empty. And I was fairly thankful that we did not choose to stay the entire length of summer league.
Yeah, I was talking to a couple people who are still out there, and I was like, "Oh God bless you!" Like that's just too much. But I guess if that's the worst thing that's going on in your life, so be it. I probably will watch a little bit tonight just because it's our last semi-meaningful NBA thing for several months here. But I'm ready, man. I'm on countdown to vacation, so I've got less than a week. At this time a week from now, I will be probably getting ready to go to the muster drill on the cruise ship. So it'll be good times as we get ready to pull out of port for a week. So I'm psyched.
I may throw a few things up here on the channel. Maybe I'll talk Ron Gutterman into coming on with me or something. We'll do a few things here and there just to kind of keep things afloat while you're out. We'll keep things afloat while you are afloat on your cruise ship.
Perfect. But somebody asked me if we would do the show. Like they're like, you should do a show from like the balcony or the deck of the ship. And I was like, if you think hotel Wi-Fi is rough to do shows from, cruise ship Wi-Fi not happening. Not only that, it would use my entire data package to be like, "Hi everybody, I'm here," and that'd be the end of the show from
it would cut out.
Me. So and I'm planning on I'm gonna do it old school. I'm gonna watch Sports Center at night and watch the bottom line. And that's how I'm going to get my sports news, just like when I was 14 years old back in the day.
We're going on a cruise as well in September, and I will be buying the internet package and doing all of those things. My wife already knows. I told her ahead of time, look, it's too close to training camp when we're going. I will be staying connected one way or another. I will not be breaking a bunch of news from the ship, but I will stay on top of things and see what's going on.
I fully expect the minute we pull out of port that
Lillard's going to get traded,
James Harden or Pascal Siakam or someone will get traded. But hey, you'll get other people's intel, and then I'll come back and share my thoughts in a week later, something like that.
We're gonna get the tweet from you. This is what's going to happen. We're going to get a tweet from you off the top of my head. This is now the cap situation after this complicated 7-team Damian Lillard trade, and you're going to nail it without even looking up any information. That's what we're going to get from Keith. He's going to be in the middle of the ocean, and he's going to know the cap breakdown for every team now that the Lillard trade is going through. That's what's going to happen.
Boy, I hope not.
Hey, speaking of the Lillard thing, do you see some of the stuff going around today? It's the Dan Le Batard show. They were talking about, the Heat's offer is what it is, and they're not returning calls back and forth. And Portland needs to just accept Tyler Hero and be thankful that they're getting him and all this kind of stuff. I get it. They're a Miami show and all that, but there's a lot of just kind of negotiating through the media going on, and it makes me how dug in are these two sides really? These reports that it may take a while, I'm starting to buy into them more and more the more I hear this kind of rhetoric coming from both sides.
Yeah, I think it's either going to take a while or someone's going to step up and snag him themselves, right? And they'll deal with the whole, hey, we'll bet, by the time training camp rolls around, you'll report because you still got 4 years and a whole bunch of money owed to you coming your way. We have a feeling, the hundreds of millions of dollars you have coming to you will be enough for you to report. So, I don't know. I guess I still believe Miami will figure it out.
Yeah.
And Portland will come down a little, and that'll probably be most likely because it's generally what happens in these cases. But the longer this drags out, the more likely it is someone else steps in and snags a load for themselves.
Do we know what Miami's offer is right now? Because the Le Batard show made it sound like it's Tyler Hero, take it or leave it. I'm sure that obviously there has to be other stuff in there, but
My guess is everything sounds like it's some combination of Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and some draft picks for Damian Lillard. Maybe
Mhm.
it sounds like at one point there were reports saying Cody Martin was like a sticking point in the deal, which Cody Martin's a very nice player and had a really good playoff run. Find it hard to believe that's the sticking point in a deal. It's the other option is Tyler Hero goes somewhere else, and maybe Kyle Lowry could be involved in a trade like this. So there's always the potential this turns into a 3 or more team trade, just with the complexities of Portland not really wanting to take back some of the salary that
Mhm.
Miami could be sending them. So that could be the way this goes. The challenge with that is there's really nobody left to just kind of dump salary on. All of the teams have used up basically all their cap space. I think Utah is the leader in available cap space right now, and it's like 2.8 million. So that's not even enough to really do much of anything. Now we have heard, and I do know Danny Ainge was a big fan of Tyler Hero. There were very credible reports he wanted to draft him. Miami got him the pick before, and the Celtics ended up with Romeo Langford. So maybe that could be a thing, where hey, we can send out a little bit here and do something and move a player, and we get Tyler Hero. Maybe they get involved, but it's not going to be a deal where it's just hey, we can eat the entire contract. There's not a landing spot like
Yeah.
that left, which is a sign in the new CBA. Got to spend to the floor was a thing, and everybody's already done that.
Right. Right. So a complication of the new CBA, maybe throwing a wrench in this whole kind of Lillard trade front. I think it was just the Le Batard thing making it sound like, hey, we know Dame only wants to be here and we're going to take advantage of that. Right. Portland, you have to take whatever it is we're offering because Dame only wants to be. It's got me thinking, Keith, I see what happened with Washington and Bradley Beal. And look, that's their own fault. They gave him a no. Their feet digging their heels in here. And we're in an NBA world right now where so many players are of the mindset, and I think correctly are of the mindset of get the money and figure out your destination later.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, it may not be now, but at some point, right? Something's going to break. We're at it. We've seen like the Gobert returns; those aren't there anymore. Those aren't happening because teams at some point said, we're not doing that." And every situation is
Mm-hmm.
different, but teams went, "Nope, we're not giving up that kind of return." At some point, it's going to break the other way too, where some team with a star is just going to say no. And I know the Nets kind of did it with Kevin Durant. Maybe it happens here with Lillard, but at some point, a team's going to go, no, I know he only wants to go to your team and you're trying to fleece us with that information, but fine then. He's got 4 years under contract. Spend the next 4 years sitting at home. We're pushing back. We're not going to do this. May not be now, but at some point that's coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you want to move into the Jaylen Brown topic or
Yeah, let's do
not.
that.
I think there's some of that going on in that extension right now.
Mm,
I think teams are starting to step back from oh, you're super max eligible. Here's everything, including a player option and a trade bonus. And now you can't, in an extension, get a no trade clause unless you already had one. And that's part of the whole thing with Beal. Beal got one because that was a whole new contract that he signed, non extended deal, and all these other things. But I have to wonder, right? There's all this stuff out there, and it's now coming in from all sides where there are some who are saying there's something going on here. There are some who are very clearly, getting intel from one side or the other that are, no, everything's fine. We're going. And the latest report was Jaylen Brown's going on vacation and they're going to put everything on hold and they'll start talking when he gets back. Again, now, I mean, all this stuff can get signed virtually, right?
sure.
eDocs is a thing.
Yeah.
People sign multi-billion-dollar contracts through eDocs now, so that could be a whole other part of this. But I wanted to address because this keeps coming around, and it's one of those things where I've seen multiple people. I've had this sent to me. I don't know who originated this. It seems like it came off of NBA Reddit, but it was, here's the list of players that have signed the Supermax contracts, and then it's got a bunch of the year and the month that they actually signed, and they're trying to use it in a sense of it's not uncommon for these things to take a while. They don't have to necessarily be signed in July. it's completely lacking context. So I'm gonna run through them real quick. It's Curry, Harden, Wall, and Westbrook. That was our kind of initial supermax class of players that signed these. Harden signed in July, Curry signed in August, Wall and Westbrook signed in September. Now, what happened there was that was a brand new CBA, and the supermax was a brand new thing in that CBA. So what's happened in this case is Harden signed right away, and his camp bet that by the time everything was finalized, they would get their deal grandfathered in down the line. Curry waited a little bit. Wall and Westbrook signed when it came. They all end up getting, what they would have got anyway in there. So that was a little bit of a unique thing. Damian Lillard, 2019, signed his supermax in July as soon as it could be offered. Now, these are the two that people keep pointing to and saying, see, these ones took a long time. It's Giannis Antetokounmpo and Rudy Gobert in December of 2020. Well, the context there is we were off, right? That was the start of the off season that year because the bubble season didn't wrap up until, the end of October that year or whatever it was. So free agency was all, out of whack that year. The next year was Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid signed their supermaxes in August of 2021. Again, we're off. We were off a whole month in that year because the season started later, went a little bit longer, and everything got pushed back a little bit. Then last summer, Bradley Beal, which Beal didn't, I guess he signed a supermax contract, didn't sign the extension, but Beal and Jokic in July. So that's a very long way for me to say everybody outside of that first group, when everybody was figuring out what these are, everyone who's been able to sign one of these and has signed one has done it as soon as they were able to. Basically, in July, did the couple in December and the couple in August, because that's when they were first able to do it. So I don't buy that there's nothing going on here. And I think what we're seeing with Jaylen Brown in this situation is they're negotiating something, right? Whether it's a player option, whether it is a no trade or not a no trade, but a trade bonus, whether it is, hey, we don't want to give you 35%. Can you take 32% with some incentives to get you to the max? We just saw that with Desmond Bane did that in his rookie scale extension. He did not get the max like Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball, and Tyrese Halliburton. He actually got slightly less, and he's got incentives that can bring him up to the max. So I just wanted to clarify this because this is not usual. This is very abnormal. But I'm starting to wonder, is this a new normal of teams basically saying, hey, we're not just giving everything under the sun because we know how this works. 2 years in, you're unhappy. You're just going to ask for a trade anyway. So we're trying to take a little bit of the power back up front.
So what you're saying is what appears to be abnormal compared to what we've seen prior to this could become the new norm in the NBA as teams, rather than just say, hey, here's everything we can potentially give you. Teams are going to push back a little bit. In part because we've seen some teams get burned when they do just give up everything. I mean, again, we just talked about it, and most teams aren't in a position to offer this. But the Wizards just got destroyed by having Bradley Beal with a no trade clause. If you just say, hey, you're great at basketball, tell us what you want, we'll give you everything, it can really come back to haunt you down the line.
Yeah, I don't know any of this, right? And I'm not reporting any kind of inside details because I don't know any of them in this specific situation other than what's already been out there is they haven't reached a deal yet and they're still working on it. But we'll see. My guess is this probably still ends up a 5-year deal and a max deal. Maybe there's not an option on the end or something like that. Well, we'll see how that all comes together. Honestly, when you get up to those numbers, the trade bonus is kind of a little silly anyway, because more often than not, it's going to get waived because the guy's probably going to be over max. But if the cap does grow at 10% rate and raises can only be 8%, yeah, you might have a little wiggle room in there to get the trade bonus in. But for the most part, it's, those are fairly minor things. So something a little odd is going on here, and I don't know what's driving it.
So I wonder how much of this too, when we're looking at players who are asking out, if that's part of this too, saying, hey, you know what, like, we're not going to give up everything because there's a lot of players right now that are just getting the most money possible and then they're picking their destination later. we don't, if that's going to be the kind of world that we're living in, we don't want to give up everything, knowing that there's a decent chance that maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe he goes 5 years and he stays with the Celtics forever, or whatever team these guys are with. But I do wonder if teams are saying, you know what, this is happening a lot. And so we know that there's a chance that we have to move you at some point. And so the more we add into this contract, the more difficult it might be to do that if and when that time comes. So I think that's got to be a factor in teams' decision making as well. Even as, of course, the players will say right now, no, we want to stay and we love it here and all that. Give me all the money. We've seen it happen so many times where a guy signs a deal and then a year later he's like, I want to go somewhere else. Maybe teams are factoring that into their process.
Yeah, I think they may be. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for me, I have no problem with the player asking for every single thing they can get.
Oh,
it's
yes.
The same as if, I walk into my boss and say, hey, I'd like $1 million per article. And if they say yes, well, that's on them. Right, great. See you later. Off I go to cash my $1 million per article. And you better believe I'd crank out articles daily at that pace. But in that rate, but it really does feel like we're in a spot where, let's see where all this comes together, right? With all this. And I do think we're starting to see some teams, especially too, look at the free agent contracts that were signed this summer. A lot of team options, a lot of non-guaranteed years in there, a lot of incentives on some of the bigger deals, not as many player options thrown into deals, even the max rookie scale deals. It's, Jason Tatum and Donovan Mitchell both got them with a player option on the end. No one has since them. I think we're starting to see teams just little bit by bit. We're clawing back some of that, ability to control things a little bit more, knowing you may turn around and ask for a trade anyway. We may go this direction down the line, but for the most part, I think we're starting to see, some of the stuff. Older players, a lot of older players got shorter deals than they might have thought they might have got otherwise in this situation. So no, those are some of the things that I've been watching here. As I've turned the page now. Free agency is essentially over. So I've kind of turned the page to reacting and recapping what happened. And those are some of the bigger takeaways that I've come away with. And I think that could be a play here in this extension negotiation.
And, just to move on to our next topic here, maybe something worth keeping an eye. Look, I always say it's nothing until it's something, but Joel Embiid said he wants to win a title with Philly or wherever else, right? I mean, it just kind of raises some eyebrows, perks some ears up around the NBA, like, might this be the next player to potentially ask out? We're nowhere close to that at this point. So I'm not trying to sound the alarm. I don't even know what we would come up with for Embiid yet. We would have to come up with some type of thing. But alliteration would be tough with that one too.
Yeah. We'll have to ponder it. Hopefully it doesn't get there.
Yes, hopefully we don't wind up there. But nonetheless, regardless of location, Joel Embiid's focused on winning a title. And just given the current climate in the NBA, when you have a star level player saying something like this, the reigning MVP mentioning, winning a title with Philly or somewhere else, it's going to get attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, a couple people called him out on social media, and because he's Joel Embiid, he came back and said, I think his social media handle currently, because he changes it some, is back to being Troel Embiid. And I think he said, read my middle name or something. Right. So, my guess is, though, the reality is Joel Embiid's not dumb, right? He knows how this goes, right? It's, hey, I want to win one. Like, I would like to win it here, but if we're not going to win it here, then if I got to go somewhere else to do it, then so be it, right? That's what it needs to happen. So I think that's kind of what he's saying. I think he also probably sees James Harden might not be long for this team. Tobias Harris's contract is coming up. We're obviously in a period of transition. What is it going to look like? And I think these guys are all sensitive enough to understand and know it's not great when you say, I never want to play anywhere else. I only ever want to be here. And then everything changes. The team is not good. And then you're like, well, I'd be content to go somewhere else. I mean, look at what's happened with Damian Lillard right now, right? A lot of people, running from the grind, and all the, throwing all the things he said in the past. I think Embiid's one of those guys. He's pretty social media savvy. So I think he's like, I'm not going to say I'm a Sixer for life and only ever will play here, because then if anything ever changes, I'm never going to hear the end of it.
Yeah, exactly. And the team and players are becoming more aware of that. They just don't want to put themselves in a position where they have to look like the bad guy. When maybe it shouldn't even be that case, right? But if they've said in the past, like you said, if they've said in the past, "Hey, I only want to be here," and then the entire situation with the team changes, and they say, "Hey, I want to be somewhere else," players, sorry, fans will throw that back in their face. What do you mean? You said you only want to be here, and now you're saying you want to go somewhere else. So that's the situation they don't want to be in. But the other thing that we need to look at, you mentioned James Harden. A lot of people don't like it doesn't feel like Joel Embiid has been in the NBA that long. And that's injury stuff kind of robbed him of some early seasons and all of that. But he's 30 this next season. He'll be 30 during the season in March. Like he's also got to recognize, hey, I've had my share of injuries. I don't have time. If they lose James Harden and they don't get a good return for him, and we drop out of this kind of contending window in Philly, there's no guarantee that they're going to. I think they still can contend. I like Tyrese Maxey a lot. We'll talk about him in a minute, but the clock is ticking for him. Again, he turns 30 this season. He's got to realize, I don't know how many more MVP caliber seasons I've got, and I need to try to maximize them right now. And I didn't make sure that Philly is on board with that.
Yeah, and related to that, this is year 10 for Joel Embiid in the NBA this coming season. Which is crazy. And to your point, he lost early years of his career. So it's really like year 7.5 or something like that. But
conversely, Andre Drummond is not 30 yet. And it feels like he's been around for, I don't know why that's so bizarre, but
yeah, it's just funny. You look at, I was looking at this going through some of the draft stuff as I was coming out of summer league, I was putting together all my notes and notes from other conversations with people, just how incredibly young some of these guys are. There's a couple different players who are 18 and won't turn 19 until right before the start of the season. And they're in the same draft class with a couple guys who are coming in as rookies that are like 23 and 24 years old. So it really is, that's like a career's worth of years in between, two ages that are starting their career at the same time. But yeah, it is remarkable when you go back and you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Because some of these guys, it catches me every once in a while. I'm like, all right, they're going into year 7. They must be at least 28, 29 years old. And then you look and it's like, wait, they're 25. Like, how is that a thing? So it does catch you. But yeah, Joel Embiid, I have no problem with what he said. He started out with, I want to win in Philly. That's what matters for now. And then we'll kind of see where this goes. Is that Harden trade, another one that kind of hangs over everything. And very much, I just wrote this today. The piece just posted on Spot Track this afternoon. I'm kind of doing the division by division, like off-season recap. And Philly's roster just feels unfinished. Like it doesn't feel like they're done. Like for each team, I wrote a little bit. What was the biggest move of the summer?
It hasn't come yet.
Yeah, re-signing Patrick Beverley. Or signing Patrick Beverley so far, like that's kind of their biggest move because that whole roster just feels very unfinished.
Now, I heard this is a very unconfirmed rumor, but that Harden may wind up just staying in Philly. That was something I heard the other day, and that's something we've heard kind of on and off for a few weeks now. Is it just like we say it's abnormal that the Jaylen Brown thing hasn't happened yet? The Damian Lillard thing I kind of get, but is it weird that the Harden trade still hasn't happened?
Yeah, both of them, right? Both of those are a little weird, especially where I think both had destinations they want to get to. Lillard to Miami, Harden reportedly to the Clippers. So it is a little odd that we haven't gotten there yet, but it's one of those things where both their teams are asking for a lot, right? They're driving hard bargains on what they want in return, and it doesn't seem like they're willing to bend right now. And we'll see. Harden worries me far more than Lillard. Lillard, this is the first time we're ever going through this. This is the third time we're going through this with Harden. And in the first 2 times, he showed up completely out of shape, did not play well, and looked like he didn't really care. So I don't know if you're Philly. I don't know that you feel like you can roll him out there with the team at the start of the season and be like, all right, we'll figure this out as we go. You need, if he's not committed, it's not going to go well. And and it's not that it's going to hurt his value. It didn't hurt his value either the first 2 times, but it could lose you games. And then when you're losing games early, now you put yourself yourself in a position where you got to make up ground and all this other stuff. So, but we're recording this on July 17th. So we'll see, right? It's middle of July. It does feel like we're getting into a new NBA where it used to be summer league ended and it was like, all right, we'll see you in September. Feels like now every year we're going to have a story or two that's going to kind of linger into the beginning part of August.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, let me ask you this. Who would you rather have, Tyrese Maxey or Tyler Hero?
That's a good question. I think probably Tyrese Maxey. It is close though. Maxey's I feel like he can be a lead guy on an offense. Not that Hero can't be. He just feels like a more of a number two. Yeah, that's tough because Maxey doesn't necessarily feel like a number one either, but it's really, really close. Yeah, I'm almost splitting hairs here between the two. I like Maxey because of his on-ball creation ability for others versus Hero is far more of a score first guy. But it's funny, I'm seeing Hero gets mislabeled big time. People think he's just a spot up shooter and those kind of things. He's not. He's really good off the dribble creator of offense. He's just not. He creates offense for himself. But yeah, and that to reference the show you were talking about before, there's nothing to do with one being whiter than the other either.
Right.
Complete nonsense.
That was crazy. That was crazy. But even just going further, into I just thought it was surprising to, and again, I think you can make an argument for either guy. I thought it was surprising to hear such a firm stance that, oh no, Tyler Hero is clear but I'm like, no, I would take Maxey. I mean, I think that he's the.
I have no problem if someone wanted to make a real argument that Hero's better, like no issue at all. Like, but make an actual argument, not just throwing out a declarative statement and then leaving it there, or defining it with nonsense reasons.
But also these are two teams that are very much unfinished. Miami didn't do much this. They let Strus go. They let Gabe Vincent go. They clearly are waiting for Damian Lillard to come in. And then Philly, what's going to happen with Harden? These are rosters that still have moves to come. And like you said, it's July 17th. So there's still things that are going to happen here. All right.
Which is funny. If you just leave the two rosters as they are, with like Harden in there, with Miami, with other guys, you can look at it and be like, it's really not so bad. Like it's not in a bad place, but it just feels like that ship has sailed a little bit there too. Because the other thing is, right, we talk a lot about Lillard and Harden and their teams having to trade them. If you're Miami, there's a lot of guys that are sitting there kind of like, am I going to be here? Am I going to be somewhere else? And it's very easy to say, hey, just do your work, put in your work. You're a member of the organization, but it's, that could change any minute now. There could be a tweet drops that says, these guys are now on a different team. And fortunately, the volume of players that are telling us now they're hearing about these trades through the media first. I know we both talk to players and agents firsthand who are getting their updates through the media than through the teams. That's not great. Teams got to clean that up. I get it. Everybody's in a rush to leak stuff out there to the insiders, but clean that up. Your players should know first from you, and then give it a minute or two, and then put it out to the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is becoming more and more of a thing. Guys are finding out when they're traded because they see something on Twitter, or a family member sees something on Twitter and messages them before they hear from teams. So that's becoming a bigger and bigger thing that we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit about let's go to this. So David Griffin has put out there that the Pelicans didn't talk Zion Williamson trades. Maybe it's true. Maybe. Maybe it's true. Maybe they really, really did. And all the smoke about there being talks about Zion Williamson were just completely wrong. And there were leaks from other teams and the Pelicans weren't really. But here's the thing. It doesn't really matter, because even if the Pelicans could have been on the verge of trading Zion Williamson, right? They could have been their finger over the red button, ready to push it. And the message today would still be, oh no, we didn't talk Zion Williamson trade, because it doesn't help them at all to say, yes, we talked about Zion Williamson trade. The thing that helps them right now is to say, no, we love Zion. We would never trade him ever. So that is going to be the message, regardless of what the truth is. And maybe this is the truth. We don't know, but this is going to be the message no matter what.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. These kind of things kind of go in one ear and out the other for me a little bit, because it's like, okay, sure, like exactly your, I think same opinion you have is like, all right, that's fine. Like I guess, that's, if that's what you're saying today, that's good. So yeah, I don't know. I fine. Like he's on the Pelicans. That's the part that matters to me. This was not like the Malcolm Brogdon situation where we actually had reported terms of a trade for all three teams involved, and then it all fell apart for other reasons. This was just always, yeah, Pelicans have reportedly offered Zion Williamson to trade up with Charlotte or Portland or whoever it was. That's to me a little bit different than other things, because this could have been as simple as, a team, they might have said, hey, we would do, Zion for 3 plus LaMelo Ball, or Zion for 3, or, I guess that was 2, 3 for Damian Lillard and number 3, like, right. That, I mean, sure. Right. Those are all different sorts of things. And it's like we always say, and I talked to 4 or 5 different people last week out in Las Vegas who were like, yeah, it's hard because, you sometimes know a team or a reporter or somebody will follow up with you saying, hey, were you talking trade about player X? It's like, no, they called and said, hey, what would it take to get them? And we said, nothing that you have, or way more than you'd be willing to give. And they said, is that where you heard it from? Because that's, that's how the conversation went. But then that team can say, well, we talked trade about, player X. So
right.
I don't know, but Zion's back with the Pelicans. I like that Pelicans roster quite a bit, the way it's come together. I think they have a chance to be a really pretty good team here, over the next little bit. But they just got to stay healthy, and it's not just Zion, right? You got to keep Brandon Ingram on the court. You got to really, be ready to go.
Yeah, they were the 1 seed in the West at one point, so we'll see if they can stay healthy this coming season. We did have an actual trade went down. Actually, a couple of deals. Payne got traded to the Spurs. Now, this was kind of a traded to the, it helps the Spurs backcourt a little bit, but the Spurs also got paid with the 2nd-round pick in exchange for taking him on. And in fact, I think it was you who put this out there on Twitter, Keith, who said Cameron Payne just so happens to perfectly fit in the amount of space the Spurs have left. This was like the perfect Tetris move where he fit just right.
Yeah, the Spurs were sitting on about, so campaign salary is $6.5 million. The Spurs had $5,713 in cap space left after bringing in campaign. So
5,000?
5,000.
I didn't realize it was that. That's right. In NBA money. That's Ace Ventura like a glove. I mean, that's unreal.
That's a rounding error, basically. Now, anybody wants to write us a check for that amount in a rounding error, let us know. Put in the comments. We'll get you an address, and you can get it sent off to us, or Venmo or Zelle or whatever works for you. We'll happily take it. But yeah, fits in there perfectly, and we'll kind of go from there. With this one, Spurs roster, they've got a lot of veteran guys now that they've kind of taken on this year. We just found out, it sounds like they're going to waive Lamar Stevens, who they took in from the Cavs as the 3rd team in the Max Strus trade. Obviously, Miami did not want to take any salary back in that sign and trade, sending Strus to the Cavs. So the Spurs held up a hand and said, hey, give us a couple picks. We'll take on Jetty Osman and Lamar Stevens. They're going to waive him, but they've still got guys like Reggie Bullock. They've got, again, Osman. Now you've got Payne. Payne, though, can play a real role. They're going to re-sign Trey Jones, and that's only 2 real point guards on that roster. They've tried to kind of fit a bit of a square peg into a round hole with Malachi Branham playing at the 1, Blake Wesley playing at the 1. I think Wesley maybe long-term, maybe could be a point guard, but there's a lot of work to go with those 2 young guys. That can still come while you kind of keep campaign around and then figure it out. And that could be always a guy you trade later down the line. And for the Suns, in case everybody's wondering, we're going to talk about why they wanted to free up the roster spot, but they shaved $6.5 million and roughly $50 million off their tax bill by doing this deal with where they're at tax-wise.
Which is, I mean, look, we're talking about the Suns. They're just blowing through the super tax and just spend. $50 million is $50 million, right? I mean, that's reality. And so what they're going to do is they're going to move forward reportedly with Bradley Beal as their starting point guard. And then essentially, rather than have a true point guard. Like this is a one, and that's the position the guy plays. They just have a lot of players who can kind of play on or off the ball. And that's, Bradley Beal, Eric Gordon, Devin Booker. They've got, of course, Kevin Durant can initiate an offense as well. So they've got a lot of these guys that can do that sort of stuff. And that's how they're going to get by.
Yeah, I think why this has a chance to work better than some of these superstar pairings is because all of these guys can play off the ball. And all of them have done it pretty extensively. Kevin Durant has played with other guys his entire career, whether it be Russ in the early years or with the Warriors or with the Nets. He's always, not that he's ever been a number two, but he's always played with other guys. And he's, one of the most devastating off-ball players there is in the league because of his size and his ability to shoot. Bradley Beal, for the vast majority of his career, played with John Wall. So he was used to playing off another guy. Devin Booker played off other guys for, at least the last, several years in Phoenix. So I think that's why this has a chance to work a little bit better. The one thing I worry about a little bit, though, because all three of those guys, they can pass, they can play make, but they're also scorers first. Who's going to make sure DeAndre Ayton gets his touches to stay motivated, involved, and engaged? Somebody has to. And that's where the lack of a real point guard may come in. That's where you're probably going to have to see Frank Vogel drop some stuff. I wouldn't be surprised. Remember back when the Thunder, they had KD and they had Russ and they went to the finals. They always ran a couple plays at the beginning of each half to get Kendrick Perkins a touch near the basket. I wouldn't be surprised if Frank Vogel pulls one of those things out. He did that with Roy Hibbert a lot on those Pacers teams, where it was, let's make sure we get the big guy a touch, make him feel involved. So it's not just, hey, you get all your points off screen and roll or off of grabbing an offensive rebound. We want to make sure you're involved in the game. And then as the quarter and half goes along, we'll cycle away from that. But I do wonder if that's where that goes.
And in a related move, the Suns do land Bol, which is something we talked about a bit last week. We questioned whether or not he was going to be as ready to go as the Suns need him to be. Would he play mistake-free basketball, essentially, and would they give him the leeway to make some mistakes and kind of grow? But nonetheless, this is another big, lanky wing that can man a couple of different positions, that can give you some size.
Big wing.
Yeah, he's a very big wing.
The biggest one.
But what do you think ultimately about landing Bol and then having Cam Payne exit?
Yeah, I kind of have my doubts this is going to do a whole lot for them on the court this year, but I think for Bol, this is great. He gets to go against Kevin Durant every day in practice. He gets to go against DeAndre Ayton if they try to play him as like a five every day in practice. So these are good, going to be great reps and minutes for him in that respect. The talent is there with Bol. He's super raw and it's all over the place. And it's unfortunate. He played a lot early, put up a bunch of highlights, put up a bunch of numbers for the Magic. Then as that Magic team last year started to get healthy, they reduced his role and they started to win games. And that was where it became, hey, we're going to try to be a better team. We don't really have a development role for you anymore to give you 15, 20 minutes a night.
Right.
And they moved on. He's definitely not going to get that with Phoenix, I wouldn't think. There's enough other guys in front of him. But, hey, if he plays well enough in practice and those things, and, they're probably going to have nights where guys sit out and maybe he steps in those moments, and then he could kind of shine and go forward from there. So we'll see.
All right. Now the Suns also in a deal with Orlando, they once again traded a first-round pick swap to the Magic, and they're getting a few second-rounders in exchange. So the Suns, who have had no draft capital, they're pretty much like punting on first-round picks, essentially. Like they're guaranteeing that they're going to have late first, the ones that they do have, the ones that the Stepien rule prevented them from trading. Those are almost set now to be very late picks. But they did pick up some second rounders in exchange for making sure that those first round picks that they have aren't particularly valuable. And those second round picks they can use to either act as currency to grease the wheels of a trade, or potentially to add in some young players if they see guys that they like with those second round picks, with the former being more likely than the latter.
Yeah, and here's how this is going to work as best as I've been able to piece this together. The Magic in 2026 will have the best pick in the first round out of their own pick, Phoenix or Washington. Now that will be what they'll have there. Then the 3 second-round picks they're giving up, it's a 2024 pick from Denver. The worst pick of Orlando, Milwaukee, and Detroit in 2026. And then in 2028, it's a top 45 protected pick from Boston. So it's that Denver pick this year is likely to be very late. Orlando, Milwaukee, Detroit, we'll see, where that lands out a few years from now. And then that 2028 pick, that's, at best, that's going to be the 46th pick. So, yeah, if you're Orlando, we probably don't have enough room roster wise to use all these picks anyway. Clear them out. Maybe we get a really good first rounder out of this, deal anyway. So, yeah, well, why not? And this is, like you said, very similar to the deal Phoenix made with Memphis. It's very similar type of terms there.
Yeah.
And for the Suns, if anybody's wondering why, they're doing this so then they have other stuff to trade later. Because they literally, after the Bradley Beal trade and the Kevin Durant trades, they had no picks. They had nothing left. Every single one of their draft picks, including swaps and everything else, was owned by somebody else. So there it is.
They are all in on this. They are about as all in as you can get on a particular roster. This gives them a little bit of flexibility. But even so, here's the other thing, though. Who are you attaching these second round picks to? Unless it's DeAndre Ayton, everybody else is a minimum, right? That you're going to potentially do. You're not going to. Bradley Beal's got a no trade. You're not trading him. Kevin Durant, you're not trading. Devin Booker, you're not trading. So who are you trading to make something? And I know that you could stack up a couple of salaries, and there's some things that could potentially do.
Sure,
but this doesn't suddenly make it like, oh my gosh, endless possibilities for Phoenix. This just kind of cracks the door open a little bit for them to do something, but it's still going to be very difficult for them to make moves.
I mean, we found out what was the going rate in a Bradley Beal trade was 7 second rounders or whatever it was. So now they've got 6 of them, I guess, if you throw those into a deal with DeAndre Ayton, something. But that's really all it is. It's, hey, we can sweeten the pot a little bit here in a trade, or hey, we really wanted to trade for player X who's on a minimum deal that we could bring in. Can we do that? And something along those lines. So you want to have something in your coffers to offer versus just we open it up and it's like Tiny Tim on Christmas Day and he's like, oh, there's nothing here. Okay, cool, thanks.
Well, if it takes 5 second round picks to get Jay Crowder, that could be that could be difficult. But we'll see. We'll see ultimately what happens here.
I wonder how many of those teams are like, what were we doing? Like, why we couldn't have done 3? Like, why did we have to do 100 second round picks? Like, what in the world were we thinking?
The market got crazy last year at the trade deadline. Really it went a little nuts. Let's see. We also have the Dallas Mavericks reportedly still interested in Clint Capella. Are the Hawks still interested in moving him? I guess is the question. Are the Hawks still looking to make that kind of a move? And then what would that trade look like?
Yeah, and the Mavs' interest in Capella goes back to ahead of the draft. Mark Stein reported they get pretty close, but then the Hawks wanted Josh Green in the trade along with the 10th pick, and that's where the Mavs were like, that's too rich for our blood. And he linked this as, definitely the Mavs still have interest, and he kind of theorized, which would make some sense. The Hawks have also been linked to having interest in Pascal Siakam. And if you do a deal where you're going to trade for Siakam, Capella's probably going to be involved in that. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him to go to Toronto. They've just re-signed Jakob Poeltl, and they've got other big guys. So yeah, send them off to Dallas, and Dallas sends, I don't know, Tim Hardaway Jr. and something off to Toronto, and there we are. There's your 3-team trade. So that's all speculation and those kind of things beyond the interest that Dallas has. But that could be the way this goes. The other part of this, as you noted here in the banner, JaVale McGee sounds like he's done in Dallas through Tim McMahon's podcast about Howdy Partners, I think it's called. Yep. He had a guest on there who was a coach with the Mavs or he's McGee's skill coach or something. I apologize, I don't remember what it was, but basically said, yeah, he's done there. He's either going to be traded or he's going to be waived and stretched by the Mavs. And kind of, I guess it makes sense. I don't. There's no room left for him on that roster.
Signed a 3-year deal last year. He's got about $12 million left. But if you were to waive and stretch him, again, 2 years left on the deal. So you're looking at waiving, stretching it over 5 because it's double the length plus 1. So, I mean, that's not like a huge hit, especially with the cap going up.
Yeah.
If the Mavs really decide, what, this isn't working, we don't have room, that's not like a prohibitive amount of money to have just sitting dead on your books when we're talking about, just over $2 million. That okay, you can deal with that.
Yeah, and because in case anybody's like, wait, why why would they just get rid of him? Well, one, why'd you give him the contract in the first place? That's the better question. But why they would get rid of him? They re-signed Dwight Powell to a 3-year deal, $4 million a year. They traded for Rashawn Holmes. I know a couple people who forgot about that, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that did happen, huh?" And then they drafted Derek Lively. So you're pretty well set at the center position. You don't need JaVale McGee. And this just goes back to sometimes it's better to just move on than sign a guy. Like, just sign another guy to a minimum deal and keep things going. That way, that's where I think some of the best teams do their best roster building. Is JaVale McGee for $5 to $6 million going to kill you? No, it's never going to kill you. But it's like, just keep moving. Like I think Miami, right, this summer, signed Thomas Bryant to a minimum deal, re-signed Orlando Robinson to a minimum deal. Those are better to me than give a chunk of, great summer league for Robinson, absolutely. Those are better deals to me than giving a chunk of a mid-level exception to a guy like JaVale McGee, which did make a lot of sense at the time, made even less sense, later as it played out.
Yep. So he may be waived, and we'll see what ultimately happens there. Or he could be added into a trade if we're talking about this Capella deal. Maybe he winds up being a salary match for somebody or something like that, and we'll see how that ultimately plays out.
Call Detroit, right? Troy Weaver could always go with another big center. Right, he loves it.
Could they start just a 5 center starting lineup? Just throw them all out there on the floor and see what happens.
Wayne Dedmon's a free agent, but I don't know if they can re-sign him. I think they still have a stretch contract on the books, so that's a whole other rule. But yeah, we'll see.
Just put 5 centers on the floor and then go old school. Do the Mighty Ducks flying V, and just power through everybody. That's it. That would definitely work.
Here it is. Might have a couple 24-second violations or 8-second violations getting up the court, but you throw it up high, right? Just throw
there you go.
Only they can go get it. Yeah, there it is.
Just play like the coach that has like 6th graders on his team. Just holding the ball up. That's all you got to do.
Those 6th graders are big, and then they're stuffing your shot back in your face.
All right. I believe this is the last thing we've got for today. Darius Bazley winds up with the Nets. He's an interesting talent, and I was surprised he wound up on the market like this, but a good signing for the Nets. Edmund Sumner waived. Are the Nets maybe getting a little too crowded on the wings at this point?
Yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit. I think Bazley's just hey, let's see. Right, let's shot in the dark. Well, we'll see if it comes together here with us. He's a guy who played well early in his career, but then late in his career, wasn't so hot. So we'll see. I just again did the Atlantic Division offseason recap.
Mm-hmm.
The Nets are in pretty good shape long term. They've got a lot of money coming off their books after this season. Their only significant long term money is in Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, and they're both on very good value contracts. So they're in pretty good shape moving forward, which is kind of funny considering they were one of the evils of the league that started this whole we could have a hard cap and we could have an upper spending limit and all this stuff, right? Because it was them and the Clippers, what they were what the Clippers had become and what the Nets were in theory threatening to become as a team, and now all of a sudden the Nets have fully reset and gone in a different direction.
Yeah. We've got Woj retweeting Adam Schefter NFL news now.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
It's just to mess with us at this point. Woj, come on.
Yeah. Stop,
knock that off.
Nice. Oh, do we want to do and then Edmund Sumner? I mean, the big takeaway is Edmund Sumner made it all the way back from a torn Achilles, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. He was actually okay for the Nets. My guess is he'll either get a camp deal and a real shot to play his way onto a roster, which we saw last year. I think it was 7 guys went from camp deals into standard deals, which is like unheard of. That never happens. I think we're going to see more of those types of things where teams go in, roster's a little less settled. Right now, you might see more guys on camp deals, and then they kind of parlay those. Because when Dwight Howard did it with the Lakers a few years ago, it was like the first one we had seen in years. And I think last year, I want to say it was like 7 of them that happened. So that may be a thing we start seeing happen. But my guess is that's where this goes, or he'll end up in the G League and then probably as a call up later. So good for him that he made it back, but just get caught up in a numbers game on the Nets there. So
yeah.
You want to do some of these Summer League awards real quick?
Yeah, let's talk about that because Kim Whitmore gets the Summer League MVP.
Yeah.
And there are fans of, well, I would guess anybody from pick like 5 on that are losing their minds right now because so many fans were saying,
Or
pick
because
Cam
the
Whitmore.
Rockets had pick 5.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And they or
exactly.
the
Exactly. That's
Pistons.
why I'm
I
saying
can't remember whoever it
from
was.
like the cutoff is like 5, right? And
Yeah.
everybody, so I guess from 6 on is the way to say
Sure.
it. With fans who were saying pick Cam Whitmore, and now he's the summer league MVP. And based on what I'm seeing on social media, everyone is handling it very, very well.
Oh, of course. I mean, absolutely. That's generally how these things are handled is, how did we pass on this guy or not trade up to get this guy or whatever. Yeah. I mean, he had an outstanding summer league, looked good with kind of everything we thought he was, right? Powerful player, very super duper athletic. He's a fun guy to throw into that mix there in Houston. The Rockets also represented with Jabari Smith Jr. was on the second team.
Yep.
Would have been a lock
He
for
was
the
great.
first team, just didn't play enough.
Yep.
Right. He ended up saying, all right, he's too good for this. Let's sit him out. So let's go through first team, all Las Vegas Summer League. Orlando Robinson of the Miami Heat, outstanding Summer League. My guess is he plays over Thomas Bryant by the time we get to like Christmas. He'll be the Heat's primary backup center. And I like Thomas Bryant too. Hunter Tyson of the Nuggets was the other front court guy along with Whitmore. Backcourt, Keontae George of the Jazz. He really looked good. Did you see the whole thing with him with his phone lock screen? Did you see this? So he had his he let reporters take pictures of his lock screen on his phone, and it's all it's a draft profile and it's all his weaknesses. That somebody wrote what his weaknesses are. So he's like, this is my reminder every day of that. So yeah, I think that's kind of cool. And then Sam Merrill, who I believe broke the Summer League single game record with, I think it was either 8 or 9 threes in a single Summer League game for the Cavs. He's a rostered guy with Cleveland. Then we get into the second team. Your guy, Max Christie, there, very well earned, looked great.
Played didn't play enough games, I think, to get first team in, but he was fantastic.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened with him. The other two guys, two non-roster players, Javon Freeman Liberty of the Bulls and Xavier Moon of the Clippers. So these guys who have been camp guys, Moon's been with the Clippers on some 10 days and a 2-way contract. But those are two guys that are free agents that are looking. So that's always fun when guys like that kind of break through and really show out. Then Jabari Smith Jr., as I mentioned, Jalen Wilson, 2-way player with the Brooklyn Nets, and Amani Bates, 2-way player with the Cavs. I've already had several people tell me in the league they think he's going to be off that 2-way fairly early this season and into a standard deal. They think the Cavs will kind of pull the Austin Reeves type of deal of, all right, this guy's too good. We got to get him off this 2-way and get him onto a standard contract. The Cavs also, they did something kind of weird, which I'm going to do the Brian Windhorst. Now, why would they do that here? They could have signed Ty Jerome out of their mid-level exception, their non-taxpayer mid-level. They had enough of it left to do that, but they took Ty Jerome's contract out of the biannual exception, which they were already going to be hard capped because they had signed George Niang with most of the non-taxpayer mid-level. But what the Cavs did, which then becomes really interesting, is they left enough open of the non-taxpayer where they could give a 4-year deal to Amani Bates if they wanted to convert him, or Isaiah Mobley, who's a 2-way guy with them if they wanted to go that route, or their other 2-way guys, Craig Porter Jr. Any one of those guys. But my guess is they might be thinking we might need to be able to give Amani Bates a deal here because second round pick exception no longer applies once you've already signed your first contract. As far as we understand it, he would not be able to then sign the second round pick exception deal. So he's already under contract on a 2-way. They could carve out a deal for him out of the non-taxpayer. So I'm obviously reading some tea leaves that may not come into play for several months from now, likely until we're in calendar year 2024, but just something to keep an eye on for down the line.
All right.
If anybody made it this late into the show, they can say, hey, I remember when you said that back in the middle of July. And
that's right.
45, 50 minutes into a show.
This is definitely going to be bookmarked and people will remember this moment for all time.
Yeah.
All right. So Amani Bates was a guy who slipped quite a bit in the draft and slipped from kind of the early buzz around him, but maybe he's proven that some of the buzz that he had at one point was worth it, was real, and kind of we'll see what he does with it from here. But has looked good in summer league. In fact, it's Cavs and Rockets in the summer league championship. So we'll get a chance to see these guys again.
Two teams that were really, a lot of the guys are now not playing anymore, but had been kind of loaded with real NBA talent level guys. I mean, part of that with the Rockets was having a million draft picks over the last few years. They had a lot of guys to put on the summer league team. So but guys, if you like NBA level basketball, professional men's basketball, this is it for a little bit tonight. Cavs and Rockets, and then we got the World Cup coming up, but that's different. That's not professional, right? They're all playing only strictly for the love of country and no other reason at all to play in the World Cup. But I mean, that'll be fun too, and we'll obviously
it's gonna be a blast.
When it starts in the end, towards the end of August, a month from now. But so let's see if we can get a couple of these trades in before I go on vacation. That would be nice.
That would be nice. And then we're going to get, I mean, we've got almost 3 months till like preseason starts up.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
Two and a half till
2.5.
Camp. So
2.5.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Well,
we'll figure something
out. I could do with a month. And then I start getting antsy. But the front office.
I can only watch so many episodes of Below Deck at night before I'm like, all right, is
that why you're going on a cruise?
It's not why we're going on a cruise, but it's definitely going to be high on the list of trash TV. I've finished out some good TV shows. Now I'm ready for mindless trash TV that I absolutely love. So yes, I'm a garbage person. Thanks. No one needs to tell me. I already know.
No, we have a DVR full of episodes of The Bachelorette and 90 Day Fiance and stuff like that. But we still
I can't do that one. There's too much yelling in that one.
They're all ridiculous, but I poke fun at them. My wife gets mad at me for making fun of everybody, and that's how that goes. But
Below Deck is filmed so perfectly in that they leave every episode somehow on a ridiculous cliffhanger, like, oh my God, that person fell overboard at night. And then you're like, well, I can't shut it off. And then somehow the next episode starts and it's like 20 minutes in before they actually get to that thing that happened. And then you're like, oh man, well now I'm into this one. And then the next thing you know, it's 2:30 in the morning and you've watched like 7 straight episodes and you're like, I wanted to go to bed hours ago. What am I doing?
Like, what has happened? I need to prioritize sleep.
Yeah. So you have to be strong. You got to cut it off. You got to be like,
find a way.
Deal with that cliffhanger tomorrow. That's enough.
Yep. Stay strong. Willpower. All right. Let's wrap things up there. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe to the NBA Front Office Show over on the YouTube channel. Turn on those notifications as well. Hit that like button. And then, of course, over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure you follow the feed there. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.